what is your system that you've designed for clients to reach out to you or to know about you? And there has to be a pipeline of clients. Like you said, it has to keep running. So how do you maintain that pipeline?
I still don't believe in push-based marketing in the sense that I will not personally reach out to anybody, personally going out and saying, hey, you know, come take service coaching services from me. It's all pull based and it's all social media marketing based. I have not spent any money in ads so far. It's all been organic.
How do you maintain those boundaries with the clients? Because I'm sure a lot of people listening to this podcast has a question कि यार अगर client चला गया तो क्या करें? मतलब बिजनेस कैसे चलेगा?
There is no delayed response. मेरा 24 घंटे में आंसर आएगा आपको, डिलेड नहीं है, 24 में हमेशा आएगा. And इतना sorted है last 7, 8, 10 years, every person in the world.
What is that one suggestion you will give them if they have to start today or start focusing on their business today?
Don't put a gun on your head or a deadline to achieve anything. Because the moment we say that, oh, I have to get this course out, I have to create a new course and get it out by 15th April. हम ये सोचने बैठ जाते हैं कि 15 दिन में क्या बन सकता है वो बनाते हैं कि 15 दिन में यहाँ से कुछ तो पैसे आने चाहिए, चलो कुछ भी बेच देते हैं.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Female Founders Podcast. I have a really special guest, Karishma, with me. Hi, Karishma.
Hi, Manmeet. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much for doing this. A little about Karishma. She has been working in the industry as a performance elevation coach for the last 10 years and has been doing it full time for the last 4 years. And let me tell you, she is very meticulous, she is very time bound and has a lot of boundaries which helps her scale time and again. And I want to know all those secrets. So let's deep dive and understand her journey and her story. Hi, Karishma. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much. So sorry. I was so amazed because I didn't even give you this introduction and you said, you automatically said she has so many boundaries. And I was actually planning to, talk about them today. So clearly you know me very well without me even having to tell you anything.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we have been, communicating for the last 1 year, I think. So I think that's a trait I have definitely observed in you.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Let's start with the first question that I ask almost all the guests. That is, why did you choose to be an entrepreneur?
Honestly, I never really thought of it as entrepreneurship. I still don't think it as entrepreneurship. I like to call myself self-employed and I have a coaching practice. I don't think of myself having a business or an entrepreneur. All of that sounds too big and too much to handle for me. I just say I have a coaching practice and I'm self-employed. And like I said, I never really thought about it. It just progressed that way and it just happened that way over the years.
All right. I think that's very important to have that kind of a clarity as to, you are doing a business, you are maybe, operating in the freelancing space, but that kind of clarity is very important. This is how I choose to run the business that I've thought of. What is the scale I want it to be and how do I want to represent it? Because a lot of people don't have this clarity. So I think that's very important that you have that clarity upfront. I would love to know that if you could just take us around that, when was the time you quit your job? Which year?
Like you mentioned earlier, I have been working as a performance elevation coach, coaching people for the last 10 years, even a little more than that. But I was always doing it alongside my full-time role. And then in early 2020, so exactly 4 years ago, I moved into coaching full-time.
Okay, nice. So that would be around 2020, 2019 that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would love to know that, how was that decision of transitioning from a job to this business owner that you wanted to be? How was the transition and how was your feeling?
Yes. So again, I never did anything with like a hard stop from today, it'll be like this and so on. I really progressed and eased into it. Even when I transitioned, I didn't go completely, like I can now see that it was full-time into coaching, but the way I positioned myself was I started taking consulting roles of my previous job. So I have about 15, I have 20 years of corporate experience, 22 years of corporate experience, of which 15 have been in people management in the healthcare industry and so on. So I took consulting roles in that industry as, so that was like again, I was still in the self-employed category, but I was
Yeah.
not completely coaching. So my income was not dependent totally on coaching. It was coming also from my consulting roles. So it kind of was a progressive move, and not like
Right.
day to day, I'm now a coach and only a coach.
Yeah, and I think that is a very smart thing to do, if I may say, because while you're, transitioning into it, while you're working, you also get that mindset. You also understand how this is going to be. You understand how would it look like once you quit your job. So I always recommend that, if you want to start a business, just do like a beta test of it. So what I'm hearing from you is that you actually did a beta test before you actually went fully into it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think what had ended up happening was that I was very happy doing both together. Like I said, I'd been doing it for a decade. I was very happy doing both together. I would dedicate my weekends to coaching and so on, and my weekdays were, of course, with my job. And I thought I could do both, and I was very happy doing that for years. And then when in 2020, I didn't want to take on roles which required me to get out of the home a lot, because it was the pandemic time, and I live with my parents now, only my mom, but at that
Yeah.
time my dad too, who had a lot of comorbidities and so on. So I was looking for roles which could be done close by without having to get out, and that's why I took some
Right.
consulting roles at the time. And how it worked out was, again, I was happy doing both. I was like able to manage both, and I was like, okay, I was not thinking that, oh, my finances are now all going to come from coaching, or what am I going to do? No, I was getting from both. And then I remember in December 2020, the place I was consulting in, they said, okay, we would like to extend your contract, that we have consulting contract, to next year. And I said, forget December. I'm like, in November itself, I was thinking that I have 300. At that time, I remember there were 150 or 200 coaching clients lined up. And I'm like, there is just no way I'm looking at
Oh,
15-hour work days. I really can't do both. So what I did was,
right.
I actually ended that contract, did not extend it, and totally. Then it was again it was self-employed, but all of it coming from coaching. And I still had it in my mind that, maybe it's only a couple of months of flurry of clients have come in, and maybe in a couple of months I'll again be the usual setup, and I'll go
Looking
back
at,
to
yeah.
taking another consulting role or whatever. So I never ever said that from this day onwards I'll be a full-time coach. And I think that really took the pressure off me also, because otherwise
Right.
oh, I have a deadline. Or otherwise, if you put all your eggs in one basket, now you are dying for to get those clients, because you're used to a certain lifestyle, certain finances coming in.
Right.
I think that really helped out, that I was not overly committed to a deadline, that by this date I have to do this. I knew I was very flexible, and God has been very kind, so it worked out.
Yeah. No, it completely brings me actually to my next question, and you've answered it already. That is, a lot of times when you're transitioning from a job to a business, finances is a very crucial aspect because, like you said, there is a kind of lifestyle you are used to. There's the kind of way you live, and then you need that basic money that you're making already because your expenses have reached to that level. So I usually ask this to everyone that, how did you transition and manage those finances? But what I understand from you is because you were doing that beta test, transitioning from the job to this business, so you also had your finances sorted out because when you went into this coaching, there was a little bit of a backup with you now because you knew that the finances are there, they're coming in. So you did not jump in completely saying, okay, I'm going to be a business owner today. So that is one thing I'm sure that, would have led you into balancing the finances. If there is anything else you would like to add to it, I'd love to know.
See, I think there's in the early 2000s there was a lot of talk, and also a lot of books about it, a lot of talk in the self-help industry, that said that close all back doors. When you are looking at a goal, just keep your blinders
Yeah.
on and just run after that, close all back doors. And I'll tell you, in today's world, that advice is very wrong, because when we close the door, that no, now I'm only going to be a coach or a business owner or whatever in any industry, even an employee saying, I will now do only engineering and only this. we are of course limiting our abilities. We have so much to offer to the world. We have so
Right.
many hidden talents which we are not looking at. But the moment we say we are closing all other doors, now we are just too vested in the result of what will come out of this thing that you are going in. And if the result is not coming in the time bound way that we want it to come, for example, because of finances, or even if the finances are all set and you are fine for a year, 2 years to take a break, but if you are too attached to the result, you will want to get to the result any which way rather than getting there in a sustainable way. I'll give one example here. See, if you throw somebody who has very basic knowledge of swimming or doesn't even know really, like an adult who kind of, but in the swimming pool, not like I'm saying in the ocean, if you throw them in the swimming pool, they have seen enough movies and stuff to know that if they keep paddling their feet, their legs, they won't drown. They do just
Yeah.
literally they do this, they'll reach they'll reach the other end of the pool and they'll be fine. But do they really know how to swim? No. Did they
No.
get the result of being alive? Yes. They got the result, but their process is useless. So if they now look to, oh, I can swim and let me do 5 laps a day, and if they're just doing
Not
this,
possible.
not possible, or even if they're doing it, it's not sustainable. That's where burnout comes from there. And not having sustainable, scalable setups, it all comes from there, because your process is so faulty, because you were so focused that somehow or the other I should just get to the end of the shore so that I make it. You're just going like this, but you did not really learn the exact stroke that you had to learn for swimming. And that happens when you close up all your doors. If your doors are closed, if you have no other option, then you're like, I have to just get there. Rather, if you have an
Right.
option of if a coach is there or someone saying, listen, I am not able to do it, can we pause? I think that really helps. I think, I don't know
Yeah.
if this analogy helped, but that is the
No, it
main.
definitely did. It definitely did. I think that's a great example that for you to be able to reach a goal, there has to be a streamlined process to it. Just don't jump into it directly. And you also mentioned about the fact that, now you're looking forward to, oh, I need clients, I need the result. And I think in business, what you're looking for, that result is clients and finance. I was talking to this one money mindset coach. He said that when you go to a client, तो ही सेड कि अगर आप एक क्लाइंट के पास जा रहे हो, अगर आपकी जेब में पैसा है, जेब भरी हुई है, तो जब आप उसके सामने बैठोगे ना, तो आप उस कॉन्फिडेंस से बैठोगे कि डूड, आई डोंट डू दिस वर्क इन 10,000, माई फीस इज 1 लाख और माई फीस इज 50,000, आई डोंट डू दिस वर्क. बट इफ यू आर गोइंग एन एम्प्टी पॉकेट एंड यू चार्ज 50,000, बट दिस से नहीं 50 का तो बजट नहीं है, 40 कर लेते हैं, नहीं 40 नहीं हो पाएगा, एंड देन यू maybe you close at 20-25 is because you need whatever is coming your way. That desperation is there, and the client or the person you're speaking to can sense that desperation. So I think I don't believe in closing the back doors, because you need to have your options, because one has to survive, and finance is the medium to do that. So definitely I agree on that.
Absolutely. That's a
Yeah.
great analogy as well.
Yeah. Okay. Share with us, how did you close your first consulting or coaching client ever? Like when you started doing this, how did you close the first one?
I actually don't remember. I know you told me you were going to ask me this. I don't remember honestly, but I do remember my first client that I closed after I went full time. So that I remember.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the other one is like, I think I first time coached back in 2009 or 2010. It's just so long ago, I don't remember
Yeah.
anymore. But how I coached, again, how I closed, I mean, I'll tell you something. Again, it was just a natural progression. This person reached out to me. I have never done push-based marketing. I have never reached out to people proactively. This person reached out to me hearing about my work, and I forget how she had worked with me in a company where we worked, both of us worked together back in early 2000s, 2003, 2004. And she was already in my Facebook network or whatever, and she heard about the work I was doing, and reached out to me proactively. And at that time, I'm going back to the analogy example you were giving from your money mindset coach. I have never actually given discounts, right? So I never believe in giving discounts, because I feel that I'm kind of looking down on myself if I give a discount. So what I did is, initially I've done a lot of coaching calls for free. I'll do something for free, or I'll give an extra something, like along with a coaching call, I may have given an extra masterclass or something for additional. But that call, my time, I'm either donating it if I'm doing it for free. So I feel I'm donating it, I'm doing some good work, or I am charging full price. So I remember charging her 5,000 rupees. And the difference then was that I said, after the call, you can pay me. After the work we do, we can pay me, which I don't do anymore, because a lot of times initially my clients were people from my known network. Now from social media marketing and all of that, so many people, they've never met me, I've never met them, so I don't do this payment post
Right,
service or
right.
anything. It's all beforehand. But this person I had known for 20 years, so I said, you can pay me afterwards. So yeah.
Nice. I have so many questions popping in my mind here and there, but I'll try to go one by one. You just mentioned that initially you got clients from the people you know, your network, and now people come and work with you from all spaces, social media. And I do know you have close to 24,000 followers on Facebook and about 3,000 on LinkedIn. So there are two questions here. One, that how were you able to reach these followers? Did you do anything extra? And second, what are your strategies to approach your clients right now? What are there any digital marketing strategy you use, or how do you reach out to your clients? Or maybe build that framework that the clients reach out to you in both cases.
Actually.
Yeah.
So let me answer the first question. How did I get 24K on Facebook? Actually, I just happened to be at the right place at the right time, because whatever I create for Insta. So I had never been on social media. My Facebook account earlier was just my friends and family, and I was not on Instagram. My LinkedIn account was also dilapidated. It was just sitting there. But when the pandemic hit and a lot of things transitioned to online versus offline, that's when I started my journey of social media marketing. And I was learning how to make reels. In 2021, I was learning how to make reels on Instagram. And whatever I would learn how to make, I would just post the same thing on LinkedIn as well as on Facebook. So LinkedIn allowed for videos even then, so you could just post that as a video. And Facebook initially didn't allow for videos like that in reels. They didn't have reels initially. So I would just take the caption and make that into a post. And I would just basically, I was like, if I am creating a post, I'm going to use it on all of my platforms, including WhatsApp status, when that WhatsApp status started. So even today, that's what I do. I make it for one, and then I just kind of tailor it for all the other platforms as well. Now, what happened at that time was in 2022, early 2022, Facebook started Reels. I think it's around that time. And whoever jumped the bandwagon with Reels at that time, you jump for the bandwagon when they're just starting out, they will throw your content out to everyone because they want to make it popular. And couple of my reels, not couple, actually 10 or 10, 12 reels of mine all went viral with 500K views, more than 500K views. So it is at that time that I ended up getting a lot of followers on Facebook. My Instagram account still has less than 2,500 followers. My LinkedIn account has 3,000 something followers. And Facebook, it was that time. And then after that, even today, it's like 1,000, 2,000 views per reel. So it was just that when it started out, I was there and my content went out. So that was how I got to that number.
Right.
That's the answer to your first question.
Yeah, that's a first mover's advantage.
Absolutely. And it was only because I had, for the last 6 months prior to that, I had been learning it on Instagram. So I was able to get on it. I was not a first mover on Instagram with Reels. Like Reels came out in 2020 on Instagram, or maybe late 2020, 21. I was not on a first mover's advantage there, but a lot of people, a lot of Instagram coaches that they talk about and all, they got a first mover's advantage then. So that's the first answer. And you had a second question there as well, right?
Yes, my second question was that what is your system that you've designed for clients to reach out to you or to know about you? And because, when we talk about business, any business, there has to be a pipeline of clients. Like you said, it has to keep running. There has to be a pipeline of clients. So how do you maintain that pipeline?
So I still don't believe in push-based marketing, in the sense that I will not personally reach out to anybody unless they're an existing client and I'm working with them and I have to tell them something. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. Is new clients, I don't reach out to people personally, going out and saying, hey, come take coaching services from me. It's all pull based, and it's all social media marketing based. I have not spent any money in ads so far. It's all been organic. And like I said, I just make one piece of content, and that I use on every platform. And I actually get clients from every platform. There are people who come to me who have come to me through LinkedIn. There are people who come to me through Instagram, through Facebook, and there are people who see my WhatsApp status, and they may have been acquaintances from the past, and then they've realized that, oh, I'm doing this full time or whatever, and they've reached out to me through WhatsApp. So people have literally reached out to me from every platform. Now, the other piece of it is, you know, my framework, or my framework is still, I will not, I don't give myself quotas. I don't give myself numbers. I feel like if I keep staying, if I'm true to the process, the result will come. And I'm very, very meticulous about my process. So I post very consistently. I don't look at now lately. I mean, initially I know it was difficult for everyone, because when you start out on social media, like, okay, how many likes, how much this. Now I don't do any of that. I post it. I have an email marketing list going on, like email, not just marketing in there, but teaching something on my educational content, nurturing people, nurturing my list through email. So I do everything. It's not just one thing. It is every platform, and every whether it's WhatsApp, Facebook, LinkedIn, and emails and Instagram, and then stories. So it's a lot of work, actually. I'll be very honest, it is a lot of work, because it's not, so you can, I feel like I can either pay a marketing agency and they will do all that work, but even then my brain has to be mine, right? Or I am just somebody who likes to work by myself. That's just who I am. So I'd rather get coached and learn something, and then I apply that. So I didn't know social media marketing. I had to learn it. So I just hired coaches and learned it, and I've just been doing that. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. I think what I've understand from your process is that you're using organic social media marketing. So your first part of the game is creating content, and I understand creating valuable content that helps the other person, just not creating for the sake of creating it. Once they consume that content from you on all the channels, and because your content keeps going out and you have that base set up, you keep getting new people consuming your content, you keep getting new people engaged with you, and that's how that pipeline is evergreen, is what I've understood.
Right. I also have a very big chunk of clients coming from referrals still, even today. What used to happen 10 years ago is still happening. That a lot of people say that I was referred to you by so and so who worked with you in the past. And second thing is, I also have a lot of repeat clients, because see, with the kind of coaching I do, it's performance elevation coaching for corporate professionals. So just because there's so many things at our workplace. So someone could be coming to me, let's say, like I have someone who has actually worked with me for 7 years. The first time they worked with me, they wanted to get a job, and they got it at 6 lakhs per annum. And lately they're at 60 lakhs per annum. So over the last 7 years, they have, so it could be something. So what they learned as a 6 lakh per annum employee, they were a sort of a fresher, out of, not fresher, but they were in their 20s, right? Versus today, in the last 7-8 years, what they are learning from me today is very different from what I would teach somebody who just has a couple of years of work experience. And so that's one. So another thing is, you could be coming for getting a job. You could also be coming, a person could be coming to get a promotion. How to get that? It could be about not being able to handle a team because suddenly they got a team lead role, or it could be about not getting along with their boss, how to handle that. So at workplace, there's a lot of things that's happening. It's not just one type of coaching, or just teach me, just get me a job and then it's done. I'm not a job coach. I don't call myself a job coach. I call myself a performance elevation coach for corporate professionals. So a lot of my clients are actually repeat clients. They've been working with me for years.
Right. I have two questions, but I'll take a step back and ask the latter first, because you've just mentioned that, you do performance elevation coaches for corporate professionals. I would love to know what's the story of deciding that this is what you would do. And if you could explain a little that what is exactly the solution that you bring for your clients.
So I have been in people management roles for 15 years at my at when I was working in corporate, right? Whether it was in India, I've got 10 years of work ex in India, 10 years of work ex in the US. So I managed teams throughout. And while I was managing teams, all these years, I have often been complimented on my ability to understand human behavior very well. And a lot of times people who worked under me in a job, they would actually never leave. They would, like, I have people who kind of moved companies. When I moved somewhere, they would also, not because I called them and said please come here, but they would be like, where are you working? I would like to work under you again, and so on, in your under your leadership again, and so on, right? So I could see that I was able to help a person grow a lot in their career, even when not as a coach, as a manager. I would be very invested in their growth. I would be able to help them a lot. So pretty much in the first 10 years of my corporate experience, I realized that I have a strength in people management. And that's when it started that I started to coach. I probably at that time didn't call myself a performance elevation coach. This is, I'm telling you, back in 2009, 2010, I started to coach and got some good results. And people would often come to me for help with their what's happening at their job and so on. And then when people would, and also a lot of times HR would say, how come you have zero attrition or very like 0.1 attrition, hardly anybody leaves your teams, and what are you doing? And I would then be asked to fly to other teams across the country in that organization to kind of share my whatever I'm doing and so on, share my processes. So I think that's how the decision happened that I'm actually going to, decision didn't happen, the progression happened, that I was always coaching people. People are gone, they're still calling me and saying, hey, in this job now I have this issue, how do I manage this manager of mine, or whatever, right? So that's how the transition happened. I think around 2016, 2017 is when I decided that I wanted to call myself a performance elevation coach, because I understand performance, that's when the whole concept of performance coaching was coming out, wherein it's based on, so now that transitions to your second question, where what do I bring to the team, right? So performance coaching is about positioning yourself based on your strengths, like strengths coaching, rather than constantly worrying about what is wrong with me and what I can fix and just get a job just somehow. So performance coaching, the difference is that it's not just about this is the result I got. Performance coaching is how I got that result, because it's the how that will decide your future career. I'll give a quick example. Let's say there is an assistant, admin assistant of a CEO. Okay. They have to handle so many things. Admin assistants of CEOs have to handle a ton of things, right? Let's say this person is fantastic at their job because they're really good with people. They're able to manage multiple stakeholders, call an event management team and say, tomorrow, can you please, yeah, do it. And they're like, yeah, we'll do it, because they're very good with people. They're like, you're so good with people, right? They're really good with people and they kind of make it happen, right? That person, when they look at their performance review, they have gotten all the results. Wonderful, great. Now let's take another assistant who's also assistant of a CEO. This person is also fantastic about in their job, but their strength is they're very good with processes. They have every process right. They're like me. They have every process right. They say that if an event management event has to be done, they have 20 event management companies. If this one's not there, if this one's there, this one's not there, this one's there. They are very, very sorted. Everything is step 1, step 2, step 3 done. At their review, they are also number 1. But when you ask person A, what is your next career move? What would you like to be? This person may say, I want to be a client relations manager next, because they're so good with people. And what makes them a good client relations manager tomorrow is their ability to connect with people and how that led to their current results. Okay. When you ask this person, what do you want to do next? They may say, I want to be an operations director and handle the operations of a company and how the processes are working. And how are they able to get that job? Because they can position themselves by saying that this is how I managed all the processes in my current role. So you see, both got the same result, but where they go next is based on not what they did, but how they did it. So that is performance elevation coaching. A lot of times people don't know that when they don't know their strengths. So you may have obviously gotten a lot of compliments in your life. I know one time your tagline said that 99% of my people love me, and that's true. I was like, yeah, they do. They do. I would never put that tagline because that is not my strength. But 99% of my things are cut copy. They're absolute processes. My processes are, very, very in place. So everyone has their strength, but not everyone is clear about how that strength can take them to their next step. And that's the service I provide. One piece of the service.
Yeah, I think you've put it and mapped it out very nicely, very beautifully. And a lot of times, I think that how is very important. As you mentioned, that process is very important because each to his own. The result can be different for different people, but that how that journey is very unique to people. So I think you've put it out very nicely. I'm still, taking that and grasping that. But that stuck a chord when you said your processes and your systems are very nice. And that brings me to the question that, you're creating content, you're handling clients, there's so much happening, and yet you are going solo, everything by yourself. I'm sure you've done some things. There are some systems or processes. As you're brilliant at it. What have you done that you're able to scale yet go solo? So that's my question.
So, two things. I'm not afraid to ask for help, and help doesn't always mean delegation. So I'll talk about that. And second, I'm very good with my boundaries, which you already put across earlier, but I'll talk a little bit more about that too. So let's talk about the boundary piece first. I think I mentioned this to you in another forum one time that I'm very clear about the way I divide my work day. I have 4 blocks of 2 hours each. One block of 2 hours I dedicate to my clients, meaning it could be a coaching conversation for an hour. It could be, and it's also replying to so many client emails and whatever is work I'm doing with clients and so on. So that's 2 hours. Then the next 2 hours is on creating a course or creating a new offer for them, or creating something, whatever it could be, like a master class, a course, or something new that I'm coming out with, right? So 2 hours on that. Then I spend 2 hours on social media creation. So whether it's a post or a reel or a story thread or something or an email that I'm sending out to my list. So that's 2 hours. And then there is 2 hours on my own learning and development and any administrative tasks. Now, when I say I have very strong boundaries, it's not just with others. Actually, most people don't have good boundaries with themselves first. I have very strong boundaries with myself, which means that I don't do this at all that, oh, today, all weekend, I will just finish up my course creation. Because what happens with that is, if I'm saying, oh, I'll put 5 hours on the weekend and create this course on the website or whatever, what happens with that is that it totally, you get totally wrung out by the end of it, right? And you're literally hanging on the clothesline like this after that. So you are able to do nothing else because your sara juice nikal gaya sab kuch hai na. So that is one thing. But more important, juice निकालने के लिए है भी, अगर हम बहुत fired up हैं जी कर लेंगे, नहीं, उसमें problem क्या है? Our creativity keeps diminishing. At the beginning of the 5 hours, my creativity can be very high, and creating a course, creating social media content, creating an email list, whatever, all of this, except for replying to emails, all the work that an entrepreneur, a coach, or whoever you want to call yourself does is creative and strategic. We don't do admin tasks. We do creative strategic work. So creative strategic work cannot be done at midnight after having worked for 12 hours before that. We don't have as much, however type A we may be, however hardworking we may be, we may not get the best output if we push ourselves like that. So I give myself 2 hours. Doesn't mean my course will get ready in those 2 hours. So I'm actually going to be launching a new course on 28th of March. And that's why when you asked me for my dates, I gave very far out dates because I know how much time I have and how much I don't have. So yes, my boundaries with others are very clear, but even with myself, I'm not going to sit and do 8 hours of course creation. I am going to do 2 hours, however much it gets done, great, because next when I come tomorrow, I can really refine my work.
Right.
And when I say I'm not afraid to ask for help, like I said, 2 hours of learning and development and all of that, I have always hired coaches. Right now also, I have a coach who helps me with content creation. It's not like she's making content for me, but she's teaching me how to create better content. So when I started to learn Instagram, I had a coach for that. So I've always had a coach for wherever I feel I lack. So I think those two things have helped me a lot.
Right, right. And I also do know, like you mentioned, that those boundaries are with clients as well. A lot of times people feel that, saying this to the client or going overboard for the client is required. Maybe the client would, go away. But I do remember your boundaries are that if the client is 5 minutes late, you would have a certain thing to do. Or if they want this kind of a particular thing, or if they've not turned up for the call and they've canceled last minute, there are a few things that you do. So I would love to know that how do you maintain those boundaries with the clients? Because I'm sure a lot of people listening to this podcast has a question कि यार अगर client चला गया तो क्या करें? मतलब business कैसे चलेगा? So address that question.
So I make it easier for the client to follow the instructions, to follow the things that are important. For example, when someone books a call with me, a coaching conversation, I have a very set message, a very detailed message that goes out to them that they need to call at this time. And if they miss a call, it will not be adjusted, or the money it's like gone. If they've missed the call, it's gone. They have to call on time and
Book
so
a
on.
call again. Yeah.
Book a call again and give the money. It can't be adjusted with the previous call. So I'm very clear in my instructions upfront. And so I don't actually get ever missed calls. I mean, people call on time, all of that is there. That's one piece. Second piece is that if responding to clients, like a lot of people, if a client sends an email, they immediately reply. I don't do that. I have a general rule for everybody. I don't have a special rule for Manmeet and a special rule for my client. My rule is, and it is so cool, I think, because it works in any case. The rule is you will get a response from me within 24 hours.
Yeah.
And that is so cool because in 24 hours, whatever is happening in my life can get sorted. Meaning that
Right.
let's say you send a message to me right now at 11 a.m. Let's say a client has responded at 11 a.m. and we end the call, and maybe I need a break or whatever. I am not looking at my phone because in my upfront booking message it says you will always hear back from me within 24 hours. And I have replied to every person. I'm not saying just clients. Even if a random person sends me a DM, they hear back from me within 24 hours. If you as you wanted to talk about the podcast or whatever, you will always hear back from me within 24 hours. What that does is it makes a beautiful expectation in the other person that she will always get back to me. Number one.
Yeah.
And there is no up and down. I'll tell you what up and down means. See, when a client asks us, hey, what time are we meeting? That's a simple answer, na? I can say, 11:30 we'll meet. I immediately answer, like, let's say, right? So that's a quick answer I gave because it was an easy question. What if the client asks, hey, what are your discount plans, or what plan should I take? This is better, that is better. Now I have to think. I have to think what is the right answer for them. So I may take 3-4 hours to answer. Now the client thinks that was this a tough question for her or whatever. See, we always make assessment and judgment about the other person based on how long the person takes to answer.
Yeah.
But if I'm always going to take 24 hours, I remember you asked what time, my answer still took 20 hours to come to you. If you're asking a deeper question, it still takes 20 hours. You cannot assess my mental state. That's beautiful.
Right.
I don't want any random person to understand if I'm having a bad day or a good day, because every human being has bad days and good days. But my performance is the same regardless of a bad day or a good day. If I was having a bad day, and my clients are used to getting 2-minute responses, but if I am here and then I have something at home and then I have something elsewhere and I'm getting back to them at 10 at night, they're like, oh, लगता है she's really stressed and maybe अभी नहीं जाएंगे, थोड़ा busy चल रहा है इसका. No. Nobody knows what's happening in my life unless I tell them, because my responses don't show my emotional state. And emotional state doesn't just mean that I am screaming, or nobody screams with their clients. No. But if we are responding very quickly with 5 smileys versus responding 8 hours later and say, hey, so sorry for the delayed response, but I was really busy yesterday with... There is no delayed response. मेरा 24 घंटे में आंसर आएगा आपको, डिलेड नहीं है, 24 में हमेशा आएगा. एंड इतना सॉर्टेड है लास्ट 7 8 10 years. Every person in the world, regardless of the time when my dad passed away, whatever happened, everybody has gotten a response within 24 hours. And I remember my
Right.
dad had passed away. One of my old colleagues who worked with me had messaged expressing condolences. And within 24 hours, I got back to her and she said, your 24-hour rule is still applying in this. I said, because बहुत खराब टाइम था, लेकिन क्या मतलब 24 घंटे के अंदर अंदर तो एक बार फोन उठा ही लिया ना मैंने.
Right, right. That's true, because we would get to the phone once in 24 hours. And that also sets an expectation very clear in front of the person that, okay, the response is going to come, like you mentioned, but time का ऐसा नहीं है कि अच्छा 2 घंटे में नहीं आ रहा है, 3 घंटे में नहीं आ रहा है. That expectation is very clear, and setting that expectation is something that is very important.
And that I set out upfront in my booking message. When someone books with me or upfront, they hear within 24 hours they will hear back from me. And you will be amazed, Manmeet, how many people reply to me saying that हमने तो सोचा ही नहीं था reply आएगा. See, people know कि आसान question का reply आ जाएगा, पर people don't know कि मुश्किल question पूछ लिया अगर, टेढ़ा मेढ़ा question पूछ लिया अगर, तो कैसे आंसर आएगा कि नहीं आएगा. So many of us keep ghosting कि ये client तो बड़ा दुखी कर रहा है, चलो छोड़ो इसको बाद में देखेंगे. मैं कभी बाद में देखेंगे नहीं करती हूँ. So how do I handle this? I said I have 2 hours every day for clients. Okay, 1 hour may go into a coaching conversation, and I may not have a coaching call 7 out of 7 days, right? But still, I have, चलो 1 hour निकाल भी दिया, बाकी 1 hour में I am going through all my clients. So 24 hours एक ब्लॉक तो आएगा ही आएगा ना 2 hours clients के लिए. And day off, if I'm taking a day off, I still at night before I finish my work, I clear out my inbox at night. So next day जो responses आ रहे हैं वो अगले दिन तक 24 घंटे होंगे उनके. So this has always worked for me. But yes, if you want to take 2 days off, whatever, you can always put up that I don't work Friday, Saturday. वो सब कर सकते हैं हम. But this is how it has helped me, because there is a very high trust factor, not just with my clients, but with my community in general, that she will always get back to you. And ऐसा नहीं always get back to you after 10 days. आप सोचिए 24 घंटे होता ही कितना है. If I get back to a question of yours within 1 day, that's fine. I'm not late.
Right.
It is just in our mind कि अरे क्लाइंट का 2 मिनट में आंसर नहीं किया ना तो फिर वो चला जाएगा. कहाँ जाएगा? I mean, we are not in healthcare और हॉस्पिटल थोड़ी चला रहे हैं कि अगर इमीडिएट आंसर नहीं दिया तो कोई मर जाएगा.
Right. That's true. I think that's a lovely rule, and I'm sure that would be a learning for everyone who's listening to this. While you were talking, you touched upon a very crucial point, I think. You said that people, difficult clients. So how do you deal with difficult clients? Because a lot of people realize that, जान भी खा रहे हैं, पैसे भी ज़्यादा नहीं दे रहे हैं, लेकिन खून भी पूरा चूस रहे हैं. So how do you deal with difficult clients?
नहीं, पैसे नहीं पूरा दे रहे हैं. This hasn't happened with me because
okay, when I say पैसे पूरे नहीं दे रहे हैं, I mean that they might not be paying what the person deserves, is what I would say.
No, I get that, but that was up to me, right?
Yeah, right. That's true.
तो अगर मैंने अंडर चार्ज किया एंड अब क्लाइंट मेरी जान खा रहा है तो ये मेरी गलती थी. और जान भी क्यों खाता है? जान खाने का मतलब क्या है? द पर्सन सेंड्स अ मैसेज, यू आंसर. दे सेंड अ मैसेज, यू आंसर. दे सेंड अ मैसेज, यू आंसर. अरे जान खा गया. नहीं, आपने अपनी जान ऐसे दे दी कि खाइए. आपको किसने कहा? किस अंकल ने कहा है कि उसको आपको इमीडिएटली आंसर करना है?
Right.
It boils down to our own boundaries, and it boils down to understanding that yes, the person has asked a question, and sometimes I may answer immediately. If they are, the only time I answer immediately is if someone's they're walking into an interview, or something has been asked and something major. Everything else in my world of coaching, nothing is urgent. मेरे बॉस के साथ लड़ाई हो रही है. अरे आज पहली लड़ाई नहीं है ना, तब से हो रही है, तो अब करेंगे सॉर्ट आउट. 24 घंटे के अंदर करेंगे. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि अभी तुम अगर कुछ बोल के आ गए, अरे मैंने बॉस को चिल्ला दिया, बोल दिया. अभी तो बॉस एंग्री है, मैंने तुम्हें करेक्ट, इवन इफ आई टेल यू व्हाट टू से टू द बॉस टू मेक हिम इन अ बेटर स्टेट, राइट, इट डजंट हेल्प इफ यू डू इट राइट नाउ. एनीवे, space is a good thing for everybody. The problem is people jump from ओवर कमिटिंग टू अंडर कमिटिंग, गोस्टिंग, ओवर कमिटिंग एंड गोस्टिंग। या तो लोग बिल्कुल चुप हो जाएंगे कि अरे ये तो बहुत टफ क्लाइंट है, इसके साथ तो मुझे डील ही नहीं करना है, एंड दे आर लाइक क्वाइट फॉर 3 days 2 days, और दे विल ओवर टू मच। हमें
Yeah.
बैलेंस चाहिए। द 24-hour thing gives a lot of balance, because when a client is asking a tough question, let's say they ask a tough question, I'll tell you, okay, this is very recent, happened day before yesterday. This person bought my course and then messaged me saying that I have not been able to implement anything that I'm learning. So please tell me what I should do. अब ये टफ है ना, इरिटेटिंग है ये कि भाई क्या हो गया,
Yeah.
क्या है, तो इट्स अ लिटिल बिट। सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई डोंट इमीडिएटली आंसर, है ना, तो वो 24
Yeah.
आवर वाला है। Within 24 hours, I got back. Now, that doesn't mean within 24 hours doesn't mean ki 2 minutes. No, I took 2 to 4 hours to answer, saying that, sorry to hear you're having trouble. I have a follow-up question. Are you having trouble are you not seeing results when you're implementing what you're learning? Or are you not able to implement only? Which one? मतलब एक होता है मैंने
Yeah.
सुना बट मैं कर नहीं रहा हूँ, मैं कर रहा हूँ पर रिजल्ट नहीं आ रहे हैं, क्लियर नहीं है मुझे। You know what he said? Good question, let me think and come back.
That solves.
People, नहीं solve नहीं हुआ अभी भी नहीं, because see people don't know कि क्या समझ नहीं, they are not able to explain, they're like अरे ये solve कर देंगे,
Right.
people खट से इतना जल्दी का जो ये back and forth है ना, it's not good for the client also, let them think।
Right.
नहीं solve हो रहा, okay 4 दिन लगाए, then he came back this morning and said I am going through everything but not implementing everything. I'm learning everything but not implementing everything. So then I answered saying this is a classic case of information overwhelm. In my course I tell people, जो मैं यहाँ बता रही हूँ वही मैं कोर्स में भी बताती हूँ कि please go through only 20 minutes at one time. जैसे मैं यहाँ पे 2 hour ब्लॉग बता रही हूँ, उनको मैं वर्किंग प्रोफेशनल कांट पुट 2 hours towards their learning.
Yeah.
I say just do 20 minutes. 20 minutes per day is better than 4 hours on the weekend. किसके पास है 4 hours weekend लगाने के लिए?
Right.
And if you are doing a marathon, लोग कब करते हैं कोर्सेज? रात को करते हैं जब सारे काम हो जाते हैं, दिमाग बंद है तब। आप अगर 2 घंटे 3 घंटे का कोर्स तब कर रहे हैं, if you're doing that at night, you will not be able to implement it next morning. You've forgotten what you learned.
Right.
So I said just do 20 minutes each day over 2 weeks. It's a 2-hour course, let's say. Over 2 weeks, you put in 20 minutes and the next day you apply what you learn. 20 minutes, apply what you learn. It's bite-sized and you can do it. And he said, I didn't think you would ever have a solution for this. And thank you, but I thank you, bheje. So what we think is a tough client, we have to first understand what is their real problem. And they have to articulate. हमें समझ भी आ गया. Actually, when I saw his first message, I may know what he's doing wrong. But he needs to think also, he or she.
Right.
And if we are spoon feeding, if we're answering too quickly, we are in spoon feeding mode and we are in convincing mode. नहीं, मेरा course तो बहुत अच्छा है. Which section did you have a problem with? No, नहीं. You are just consuming too much, which is the truth for everybody. We are all consuming too much and we don't have space left in our brain to learn anymore.
That's so true. I think that was a really nice example. And I think asking questions and setting the expectations right is the key. No matter what kind of client it is, if you have your own boundaries and the boundaries with the people that you're working with, I think you'll have a solution almost for everything in 24 hours, as you mentioned. Yeah.
Or you are getting back in 24 hours. I may not have a solution.
Yeah.
I got back. Let the process of conversation happen. See, there is no urgency. We may think, but I want to grab that client for a contract, even if they were not a client, a pre-client, they're in the works. I want to get that client, get that. No, let them think through that decision rather than getting something just because they got convinced in the moment and then not doing the work that's needed to get the success. And then they say, course chalani.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely agree to you. I think that is lovely. Thank you so much for sharing such insights. I would love to ask that, how does your pricing work? How do you price your clients?
So I look at the client growth journey and I have offers at, I have courses and different kind of offerings at low ticket, mid ticket, high ticket. So my lowest ticket is like master classes, which are at 1,000 rupees. Then I have mid-ticket courses, usually around 3,000 to 4,000 rupees. And then I have high ticket, which is my coaching. And my coaching could be anywhere, one-on-one coaching could be anywhere from 4,000 rupees all the way to 1.5 lakhs, depending on what kind of a package the person gets with me. Now,
Right.
I also charge differently for clients who are outside of India. So I have clients across 15 countries. And this pricing that I mentioned is for people in India. People who are based outside of India, it's not a direct conversion. I don't just say, oh, okay, if it's 8,000, then that's $100. No, I do what's called purchasing power parity. What that means, like if I buy a Diet Coke, if I buy a Diet Coke or a Coke can over here, it costs 50 rupees. If I buy a Coke can in the US, it costs $2. So what that means is $1, the value of $1 is equal to the value of 25 rupees in what it will get me.
Yeah,
so the purchasing power
that's
parity, so that means the person spending $1 in the US feels the same way as a person spending 25 rupees over here.
Right.
Our feeling कि हमें उसके क्या मिलेगा, हमें 25 रुपए में जो यहाँ मिलता है वहां $1 में मिलेगा. So our conversion is 1:25. It's called purchasing power parity. It's a very well-known economics concept. It's not something I made it up in घर पे, but my pricing is based on that because my community should feel that they are spending this much and getting this much value. Otherwise क्या होता है कि $100 and 8,000 में बहुत फर्क है. Like $10,000 10,000 rupees could be $125 in the US, right? Like do a conversion. But if you do purchasing power, it's equal to $250 for 10,000. Right? Because
that's correct.
If I divide by 25, I don't divide by 85, the current conversion rate. And that's how the pricing is decided. What that does is that when someone is buying in the US also, my coaching for, let's say, $150 worth like 4,000 rupees, तो वो फीलिंग कि मेरे को इतना है, इतना मैं खर्च कर रहा हूँ. इट्स नॉट लाइक अरे तो बड़ा सस्ते में मिल गया. जो वो आता है यूएस से जब इधर आते हैं अरे सब कुछ बड़ा सस्ते में मिल गया, वो चीज नहीं है. आप कहीं पे भी हो, whether you're in Australia, UK, whatever, it's based on purchasing power. So what you're feeling like you're spending is equal to wherever you are. Your feeling is going to be the same whether you're an Indian spending 25 rupees or you're in US spending $1. So that is another thing with my pricing.
I think that's a very nice concept for people to learn to, maintain their finances for their business. So that's a really nice concept. Okay, so now that we have a little bit of time left, I would want to ask a very important question. And I would love your thoughts on it, that, being a female business owner, being a female content creator, has there been any kind of judgments from the society, from your relatives, or any kind of marks? Because a lot of times, especially, I do this for females so that they get the inspiration from the females who are doing so well like yourself. And I want them to take a one step forward. So I would love to know that what was your journey while you were building all of this, and did anyone ever come to you and say that, oh, you've not done this, you've not done this, ye wala checklist nahi kiya being a woman, or ye karna zaruri tha, why are you focusing all your time here? Like your journey towards this as a female business owner.
So 2 parts to it. Number one, nobody has ever really messed around with me too much. I am very strong headed and it's hard to mess around with me. मतलब अगर मेरे client मुझे नहीं mess out कर पा रहे हैं तो relatives क्या mess around करेंगे मेरे साथ, है ना? But I'll tell you why, because I've always been someone who's taken the road less traveled. I mean, I remember being 22 years old and wanting to move to US to work over there. I did not have any family there. I did not have any friends there. This is back in 2003, which is like long ago when there was no Google also. There was no Google Maps, no nothing. And I was not even going there to study कि अच्छा चलो university जा रहे हैं. I said मैं बस वहाँ जाके काम करूँगी. I wanted to go with a new job. So I started applying for jobs. It took me a whole year to get a job in the US sitting here in India as a 22-year-old. But that was really unheard of to go to US in 2003 back then with a job and not for higher education or going for your family, moving there because someone got married or something. It was just on my own, मुझे वहाँ जाना है. And I'm an only child. ऐसा भी नहीं है कि चलो यहाँ पे 4-6 और पल रहे थे तो चलो एक गया तो कोई बात नहीं. तो मतलब I mean, I'm just saying, not just saying कि 4-6 किसी के होम को नहीं जाने देंगे, but with an only child, you got a lot of more eyes on you from your parents and so on. So I've always been very strong-headed, very clear what I want to do. And if at 22 years old people couldn't dissuade a decision that today I myself look at it and like, yaar itna courage aaya kahan se, so I myself look back and say, whoa, ye kya kiya tha maine. But so yeah, no, I have not really gotten too much from my family or relatives as such. But there was another part to your question where you said that have people said that should your journey be this way or that way instead, or ye checklist nahi kiya ya wo nahi kiya. See, I will say this, that everybody's life is different. Someone could be single,
Right,
someone could be married with no kids, someone could be kids and homemaker, someone could be an entrepreneur, kids, and a working woman outside, like in a
right,
regular role also. So everybody's journey is different, and each journey comes with its own pluses and minuses. Actually, मेरे
right.
relatives ने तो मुझे कभी किसी ने दुखी नहीं किया, to be honest. Not to say that I don't have irritating relatives, सबके होते हैं. मेरे friends ने मुझे बहुत दुखी किया, which is kind of funny because you would think that friends would support you, and I have really amazing
Yeah,
friends. But I am the only one who's taken this different path. Most of my friends are, people who they may be working or maybe entrepreneurs, but with kids and the life that is usually seen as the normal Indian life, as it's seen. And
yeah,
I've seen a lot of this from my friends, that तुम ये कर रही हो या फिर वो कर रही हो और ऐसे क्यों नहीं कर रही हो, and maybe it's easier for you. And I'm like, listen,
yeah.
everything has its pluses and minuses. Everything.
Right,
I may be a single person. I live with my mom. It's mom, my dog, and I. We're three of us. Yeah, there is a lot of freedom that I may have, which I don't like. I don't have, my time is my own. मेरे बच्चे मेरा time नहीं
right.
मांगते हैं. but yes, I have to take care of my mom whenever she needs that. But my time is my own, so I may not have a lot of societal responsibilities that way. But I also have a lot of negatives that come with where I am in my life, right? So I
Right,
think
exactly.
every path has its pluses and minuses, and we have to embrace the minus and the plus. Minus को भी embrace करना है. Problem क्या है लोगों की, लोग अपना देखते हैं minus और दूसरे का plus देखते हैं. Like I remember this person telling me, a friend of mine telling me, "Arey, look at you being able to hire this coach. It's me deciding between hiring a coach or paying the child's fees. तो मेरा तो वो नहीं है." तो मैंने कहा, एक बात बताओ, अगर तुमको कोच हायर हो जाए पर तुम्हारा लाइफ से तुम्हारा बच्चा निकल जाए, वो चाहिए तुम्हें? नहीं ना.
Yeah, right.
तुम्हें तुम्हारा बच्चा भी चाहिए, तुम्हें तुम्हारा कोच भी चाहिए. मेरे पास तो बच्चा नहीं है. हाँ, तो कितना
Yeah.
अच्छा है. मैं तुम्हारा बच्चा हटा दे फिर. नहीं नहीं नहीं, बच्चा तो चाहिए. तो क्या डफर वाली बातें हैं ये. आई एम सॉरी, आई एम बीइंग स्ट्रांग, बट एंड यू कैन एडिट दैट आउट इफ इट्स टू स्ट्रांग, बट आई एम लाइक, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ थिंग आर यू सेइंग? You are comparing a weakness that you feel in your life with someone else's strength, but you're forgetting
Right,
they have other weaknesses too, right? So
right.
it's the choice. Whatever choice we make, we may not have the love and the joy you get from raising a child, and I don't have that. Now I'm not saying I'm pining for that or whatever. I'm thinking, no, I'm just saying each path has its pluses and minuses, and it will serve us well to embrace our minuses instead of saying मेरा ये minus है, उसका वो plus है, पर उसका कुछ और minus है भाई.
Right, right. I think it all boils down to, during the entire conversation, is that boundary. If you have that boundary, if you have that expectation as to what I want to do with my life, like, taking that decision or going to US at the age of 22 was the boundary, or was the, expectation you had with yourself. So it's all about that. What is the decision you want to take with your own life is what I've understood from your journey. And that's completely amazing. Before I let you go, I would love to ask one question, is that all the females who are listening to us who aspire to be founders or are founders already, what is that one suggestion you'll give them if they have to start today or start focusing on their business today?
Don't put a gun on your head or a deadline to achieve anything. Because the
Yeah,
moment we say that, oh, I have to get this course out, I have to create a new course and get it out by 15th April. The moment we put a gun on our head, especially as we're starting out, see, once you've been doing something for a long time, you've sorted, you know what you can do. But if you're starting out and you put a gun on your head, we end up boxing our creativity. अब क्या हो रहा है कि मुझे लग रहा है, ये नहीं मैं सोच रही हूँ कि what is the best thing I can serve my clients with. हम ये सोचने बैठ जाते हैं कि 15 दिन में क्या बन सकता है वो बनाते हैं.
right,
That
right.
is the biggest mistake. And why do we make that mistake? अगर or kahin se we are not getting finances, and if we have not locked in our finances, then we are very vested, what we talked about at the beginning of this call, then we are very
Yeah, right.
vested into this success कि 15 दिन में यहाँ से कुछ तो पैसे आने चाहिए, चलो कुछ भी बेच देते हैं. I know
Right,
nobody
right.
sits down thinks कि कुछ भी बेच देते हैं, but we are definitely boxing our creativity the moment we create artificial deadlines for us. I think the
Yeah.
biggest thing I can give to people who are starting out or are new in this journey of entrepreneurship is that don't give yourself deadlines. Instead, work 2 hours a day. Like keep a block for creativity every single day and see how much progress you make in 1 week. अगर आप 5 दिन भी काम करें in the 10 hours, how much progress have you made? Based on that, you can then create a deadline rather than ऐसे बैठे बैठे हवा में deadline that by 15th April I will have a new course. You know, and I've learned that from you a lot, Manmeet, that when I started to, I've learned a lot of how to create a website and all from
Thank
you.
you.
And no, seriously, you're so good at it. And मुझे मतलब 2-2 घंटे लग जाते थे बनाने में. Just the other day, remember we were talking about something, it took
Yeah.
so long. And if I have an artificial deadline, because I don't know how to make my websites,
Right.
that's not my forte. My forte is coaching and on corporate professional corporates, right? So it's not how to make that websites. But if I am making artificial deadline around it, I will either do a poor job or I will box my creativity to just fit in somehow कि उस समय तक निकल जाए बस कैसे भी. Or third
Right.
case scenario is if you're a real type A कि मैं तो करके रहूंगी, तो फिर आप burnt out हो जाएंगे, sustainable नहीं है.
Yeah, right,
There
right,
is
right. That's
there is
true.
no good outcome. There is no good outcome. Even if you deliver fantastic course at the end of those 15 days, you are burnt out, or you have
Right.
boxed yourself and lowered your creativity, or you have just felt like I'm not good enough क्योंकि मेरे से तो हो ही नहीं रहा है. So either
Right.
is not.
Yeah. So I think the crisp of this podcast has been expectations, setting boundaries, and not putting a gun to the head is how I would like to sum it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do not put a gun to your head. Don't let clients put a gun to your head. Have boundaries.
Thank you so much. This has been such an insightful conversation, and this is, I think, the longest podcast I've done. I never knew when 1 hour went away. The conversation was so insightful, so full of energy. And I would love for you to share if anybody wants to get in touch with you, learn about your work, or maybe work with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can find me at, you can email me or you can find me at, my website is karishmameni.com. And that's just my full name.com. So I'm sure when you send out this podcast, my name is going to be there. So that's just the easiest way. You can also find me on Instagram by that name or on LinkedIn or wherever, but website and then go through that, whatever works for you.
Yeah. And we'll also put the link in the description, your LinkedIn link and your Instagram link. We'll put it in the video description. Yeah. Thank you so much, Karishma. It was an insightful conversation. Absolutely love speaking to you whenever I do. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.